For years, the galaxy watched Earth with quiet fear. It was a death world, a planet full of storms, poisons, and creatures that should not survive. But somehow humans did more than survive. They thrived. They built ships. They explored. And then they went silent. No messages, no trade, no war, nothing. Many alien races were happy with that silence. A quiet death world was a safe one. But one night, deep in Sector 14, a long-range listening station picked up something. It started as a hum. Then it became a code. Not just any code, an old war code. A signal that hadn't been used in over 60 years. The signal came from Earth, and the message was simple. Fleet Ascend, Phase 1. Inside the station, the technician, a six-eyed Greylan named Heska, froze in place. He played it again, and again. Each time his hearts beat faster. This wasn't a mistake. It was a launch signal. Across the stars, panic spread like fire. On the planet Rulin, the Council of Peace met in emergency session. The 12 alien leaders shouted over each other, their voices filled with fear. They said they disarmed, screamed the Zorvani delegate. They lied, replied the cold-eyed Varlock Prime Minister. They always lie, said another. But they never signal before they strike. Why now? A hologram appeared in the center of the room. It was Earth, as seen from orbit. And from the oceans rose fire. In Earth's southern ocean, something massive broke through the waves. It was not a ship. It was not a submarine, it was both. 30 black metal giants shaped like sharks and warships climbed from the deep. One by one they joined formation above the water. Each one carried enough power to break a moon. They had no names on them, only numbers. Unit Euro 1, Shadowburn Unit Euro 2, Skybreaker Unit Euro 3, Revenant, and they were just the beginning. From hidden, mountain bunkers, underground silos, and floating islands, the fleet kept rising. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Some small, some big enough to block the sky. Each one answered the same command. Fleet Ascend. Above Earth, satellites long thought dead came to life. They began mapping star systems, targeting old coordinates, preparing for something no one could name. On Mars, a human commander named Ash stood in front of a war room full of officers. His face was calm, but his eyes were full of storm. He said just 5 words. We begin what they ended. His officers saluted. The fleet was not just Earth's revenge. It was Earth's final move. Across the galaxy, the fear grew louder. Civilian networks played old war videos, grainy footage of humans charging enemy lines with broken weapons, refusing to fall. A young alien student asked her teacher, "Are humans really that dangerous?" The teacher replied, "Dangerous isn't the right word, they're unstoppable." And now they remember what we did. 50 light-years away, an old warlord named Trax Kun sat alone in a dark chamber. He was once the commander of the largest fleet in the galaxy. Now he was nothing but a legend, forgotten by most. But when his guards showed him the signal from Earth, his old bones began to shake. He looked at the rising fleet on his holoscreen. "This isn't a warning," he whispered. "This isn't a show of power." He stood slowly, painfully. "They are not preparing for war." His voice dropped to a whisper. "They are coming to finish it." On Earth, civilians looked up and saw the sky full of strange stars, lights from ships they never knew existed. Some cried, some cheered, others just stood in silence. The world had changed in one night. There were no speeches, no news, no leaders speaking to the world, just the signal. Fleet Ascend. And behind it, a message carried only to one unknown. Location. To the ones who thought we forgot. We never did. We just waited. Now we rise. The signal had reached every corner of the galaxy. Fleet Ascend, Phase 1. Old enemies were terrified. But strangely, Earth's old allies were even more afraid. On the lush planet of Vehlari Prime, Ambassador Rin watched the Earth fleet rise on the hologram. Her wings trembled. She had fought beside humans once. fought with pride. But what she saw now wasn't defense, it was fury, and she knew why. They didn't forgive us, she whispered. Behind her, young officers stood frozen. One asked, "But weren't we their friends?" Rin closed her eyes. "No, we were there when Earth was betrayed, and we stayed silent. 20 years ago, during the Great Orion collapse, Earth had sent a distress signal to its allies. Pirate fleets, enemy worlds, and warlords had begun attacking human colonies. Supplies were stolen, cities bombed, children taken. Earth begged for help. But the galaxy did nothing. The Council said Earth was too violent, too unpredictable. They let the humans fight alone. And Earth did fight. For every world lost, they made 10 more weapons. For every life taken, they trained 1,000 more soldiers. And when the war ended, Earth vanished, silent, broken, forgotten, until now. On the Council world of Lurex 9, leaders gathered in panic. The hologram showed a new fleet moving through deep space, fast, quiet, unstoppable. Each ship carried a strange new mark, a white star with a crack running through it. "What does it mean?" one leader asked. Another replied, "It means Earth is united but no longer whole." They had changed. The humans weren't calling for peace, they weren't calling for war either. They weren't calling at all. They were just coming. In the shadows of the galactic north, Admiral Tykar of the Jarnathi Empire watched the incoming ships on a red screen, radar. He leaned back in his chair, claws tapping the metal. "These are not the ships we knew," he said. "These are not the humans we fought, they have evolved." A young soldier spoke. "Should we prepare our defenses?" Tykar's jaw clenched. "No. You don't build walls against a storm." He paused, voice dropping low. "You hide and pray. It passes." Back on Earth, Commander Ash met with his top officers. They stood before a digital map that lit up with red enemy territories. One officer asked, "Are we hitting them all at once?" Ash shook his head. "No, that's what they expect. We start with the ones who watched our people burn and looked away, the ones who called us allies and but turned their backs." He pressed a glowing symbol on the screen. "The Velari Commonwealth is first. On Velari Prime, Rin stood before her planet's leaders. 'We must contact Earth,' she said. 'We must speak, apologize, do something.' But they laughed. 'They wouldn't attack us,' said one. 'We helped them build their first deep space gates.' Rin's voice broke. "And we watched as those gates were destroyed. We never sent aid. We never even asked if they survived." A cold silence fell over the room. Then came the alert. Dozens of unknown ships had entered their system. No words. No demands. Just Earth's flag, with the cracked white star. In orbit above Velari Prime, human ships took position. Silent. Still. But one vessel moved forward. It wasn't the biggest, or the brightest. But its name burned across its side, HNS. Forgotten vow, and behind it hundreds more turned to face the planet. Then Earth spoke, one message. "You were once our friends. You stood by when we bled. Now you will understand what silence feels like." Velari Prime's defenses lit up, but they were old, built for pirate raids and rogue comets. Not for this. Not for Deathworlders. Across the galaxy, other allies watched, in horror. The humans were not taking planets. They were teaching lessons. No deaths, no destruction, just power. Human ships jammed comms, froze satellites, and shut down defense networks with silent EMP waves. Then they left, leaving behind one signal. Phase 2 begins. And now, the real fear began. Not because humans had attacked, but because they had barely tried. The stars were quiet. Too quiet. After Earth's fleet darkened Velari Prime without firing a single shot, the galaxy waited in fear. Was that a warning, or just the beginning? No one knew. But then came Phase 2. The first target wasn't a military planet. It wasn't rich, it wasn't powerful. It was a forgotten colony near the edge of known space. Yorvek's 12th population, 4.3 million. Mostly merchants, workers, and former war refugees. They thought they were safe. They were wrong. The sky above Yorvek's 12 split open like glass. Hundreds of human ships dropped from light speed. No noise, no warning, just shadows. Within minutes, every screen on the planet flickered, then turned black. The people looked up and saw Earth's cracked star. Then, one by one, their power grids died. Satellites blinked out. Shields dropped. They were completely exposed. Inside the governor's bunker, alarms screamed. Governor Threx, a thick-skinned Raxari, shouted, "Why?" "Here? We're not even part of the war." But his advisor, a thin, shaking Loran named Siva, whispered, "We used to be." Threx turned. "What are you talking about?" Siva closed his eyes. 20 years ago, this planet sold weapons to Earth's enemies. Quietly, for profit. No one thought Earth would ever find out. Threx's mouth went dry. "They did," he said. Siva nodded slowly. "They didn't forget." On the surface, human dropships touched, down. But there were no soldiers with guns, no tanks, no drones, just teams in black armor with strange tools and scanners. They entered factories, storage depots, even schools, and took data. Not gold, not supplies, not prisoners. Just records, files, names, logs, and then they left. They returned to their ships, and those ships did something no one expected. They broadcast every single hidden deal Yorvek's 12 had ever made, every betrayal, every lie, every secret sale during the war. It was all sent into open galactic channels, uncoded, public. The whole galaxy saw what the planet had done. Yorvek's 12 didn't fall from war. It fell from shame. Trade routes were shut down. Other planets refused to do business. Refugees fled. Riots broke out. No human had fired a single shot, but Yorvek's 12 was finished. In the shadows of deep space aboard the human command vessel HNS Revenant, Commander Ash watched it unfold. An officer spoke. "We could have wiped them out in minutes." Ash nodded. "Yes, but fear is louder when it's quiet." He looked at the next planet on the list. Phase 3 begins soon. The ones who ordered the bombings, they're next. Far away on the frozen world of Draxion 5, a retired admiral named June Vexa watched the human broadcast. She once led the fleet that abandoned Earth during the war. She told her people it wasn't their problem. Now she saw her own signature on the old war orders, displayed across the stars for all to see. Her hands shook. She turned to her guard and whispered, "We should have killed them when we had the chance." The guard replied, "You didn't." June Vexa looked out the window and saw a shadow moving across the sky. It was shaped like a dagger, heading straight for her city. The galaxy finally understood. Earth wasn't just rising. It was judging, not with war, not with peace, but with truth. And truth, when spoken by Deathworlders, could destroy whole worlds. The galaxy's news channels spun lies quickly. They said Earth was acting like a tyrant, that humans had gone mad, that their silence had turned to savagery. But Earth wasn't listening, because this wasn't about what the galaxy called justice. This was about payback. From a hidden moon station near the core worlds, Earth's high command watched the chaos unfold. Commander Ash stood before a massive star map. Red marks blinked. Each one was a planet that betrayed Earth during the war. Each one had been marked for judgment. One officer asked, "What if they surrender?" Ash didn't smile. "We're not here to win a war," he said. "We're here to remind them what they did." On Draxion 5, panic spread like fire. June Vexa, the ex-admiral who once voted to leave Earth undefended, had vanished. Her estate was burned. Her files leaked across the stars, proof of her betrayal. Her own people turned against her. Statues were pulled down. Street riots exploded. The humans had dropped no bombs, but they had crushed her legacy. The galaxy watched in disbelief. This was a new kind of warfare. Earth's fleet didn't destroy cities. They destroyed reputation. They didn't take territory. They took truth and used it like a weapon, and worse, they were getting faster. Every planet they touched fell without resistance. At the Galactic Council, the leaders met in secret. Ambassador Kalor, a reptilian leader with gray scales, slammed his hand on the table. "This isn't war. It's humiliation." Another replied, "Then stop giving them reasons to be angry." A silence fell. Someone finally asked, "What do they want?" No one could answer, because Earth hadn't sent any demands, no messages, no talks, just movement. And that was scarier than any threat. Meanwhile, back on Earth, billions watched in silence as their fleets moved through space. There were no cheers, no parties, only quiet faces, because to them, this wasn't a celebration. This was unfinished business. In the center of Earth Command, an old recording played on loop. It was from the war, 20 years ago, a child crying, asking, "Why didn't they help us?" And that voice echoed now in every mission briefing, in every command center, in every heart. On the jungle world of Varnex 3, news spread that Earth's ships were coming. The leaders scrambled. "We gave them medicine after the war," one cried. "But," an aide whispered, "we also sold the location of their refugee ships to pirates for profit." And then, the power went out. A single Earth vessel hovered in the sky, casting a black shadow. It didn't attack. It just waited. And slowly, the planet tore itself apart. One faction blamed another. Old secrets surfaced. Guilt turned to panic. And Earth never even landed. Some called it psychological warfare. Some called it horror. But the humans had a different name. They called it reminder. A reminder that Deathworlders don't forget. And they don't forgive. During the Great War, Earth was burning. Cities collapsed. Children starved. Hospitals begged for help. But some watched from safe, shining towers in the sky and saw a chance to make profit. They sold Earth faulty weapons. They charged double for food and water. They traded secrets to Earth's enemies just to earn more credits. They smiled while Earth bled. They thought no one would remember. They were wrong. Now, Earth's fleet was returning, not to attack but to reveal. Across the galaxy, planets woke up to horror. Old war files, once hidden behind firewalls, suddenly appeared on their public networks. Earth had unlocked them: emails, credit logs, secret deals. Everything was now exposed. On the luxury planet Caress V, home to the richest beings in 3 sectors, people screamed, not from pain, but from shame. Families who had lived in gold towers for generations now faced riots in the streets. Their dirty secrets were open for all to see. Who sold fake medicine to Earth hospitals? Who gave location codes to enemy warships? Who laughed while Earth begged for help? Every name, every deal, every lie. Out in the sky above Caress V, Earth's ships hovered like silent judges. They didn't fire a single shot. They didn't have to inside a private mansion. Lady Renthera, once the richest woman in the sector, fell to her knees. "They were just humans," she whispered, shaking. "They were supposed to die quietly. That's how the galaxy works." But her daughter, holding her baby close, looked up and said, "Not anymore." Across the stars, former war merchants tried to hide. Some changed their names. Some ran to neutral space. Some offered bribes. Earth didn't care, because Earth's new weapon wasn't made of steel or plasma. It was made of truth, and it was unstoppable. In a dark ship high above a trading station, Commander Ash watched the list of prophet traders grow shorter. One officer asked, "Are we just going to keep exposing them?" Ash stared out into space. "No," he said. "After this, we move on to the final phase." The officer hesitated. "What is that?" Ash's voice was cold. "We go after the ones who ordered Earth to die." Far away, deep inside the galactic core, the High Council trembled. They thought their power was untouchable. They thought Earth was too broken to fight back. But now, One by one, their names were being whispered in fear. And when Earth finally arrived, at their doorstep, no secret would save them. The galaxy finally began to ask if Deathworlders had survived so much pain, if they had kept their silence for 20 years. What were they truly capable of when that silence ended? They sat in towers of light, the Galactic Council, the oldest, richest, most powerful leaders in the known galaxy. They ruled with quiet hands, passed laws with soft voices, and when the human war came, they chose to stay silent. Worse, they chose to let Earth burn. They had the fleets, the tech, the power to help. But behind closed doors, they made a cold decision. If Earth falls, the balance of power remains. And so they watched as children screamed, as cities vanished, and as Earth's pleas for help were ignored. To them, it wasn't war. It was calculated extinction. They called it order. They called it balance. But Earth remembered it as betrayal. Now, 20 years later, that betrayal had come back. And this time, Earth wasn't sending diplomats. They were sending truth. On Council World Prime, alarms began to ring. Not from enemy ships, not from plasma fire, but from data leaks. Suddenly, every Council citizen had access to sealed records, meeting logs, secret votes, private conversations. The truth was horrifying. Their own leaders had voted unanimously to sacrifice Earth, to protect their own comfort, to keep trade routes stable, to play God. Riots broke out across Council-controlled planets. People, who once praised their leaders, now burned their flags. Screens everywhere lit up with one sentence written in Earth's basic language: "We remember." Inside the Council Tower, Supreme Chancellor Orin stood before his panicking advisors. "They'll come here next," one shouted. "They know what we did." Another slammed a fist down. "We should have finished them when we had the chance." Orin looked out the glass wall into the stars and whispered, "No, we should have helped them." Far above, Earth's fleet arrived, silent, organized, terrifying. No messages, no threats, just presence. It was more chilling than war, because the humans weren't looking for surrender. They were looking for answers, and the galaxy knew. Earth didn't ask twice. The Council tried to contact them. They sent peace offers, talked about unity, begged for forgiveness. Earth didn't respond. Instead, Earth sent them something else, a video from 20 years ago, a boy in rags, standing in the rubble of a destroyed school. He looked at the sky and said, with tears in his voice, "Why did they let us die? That was it, no threats? It." No. No message, just that, and it was more powerful than 1,000 warships. Council defenses went on high alert, but Earth didn't attack. Instead, they dropped records, thousands of pages of evidence, every backroom deal, every lie, every life they let die. They made sure every citizen across the galaxy could read it, and then Earth turned away without firing a shot. But that silence meant something far worse, because Earth wasn't finished. They weren't after revenge anymore. They were after something deeper, something colder, something final. The stars had never been so quiet. Earth's ships, once small and forgotten, now filled the skies of powerful worlds. They didn't fire, they didn't speak, they simply watched. And the galaxy knew. Judgment had begun. The Galactic Council had fallen, not by bombs or battle, but by the weight of their own sins. Their people turned against them. Statues were torn down. Broadcasts showed the truth. What they did, who they let die, and why. But Earth didn't cheer, because this wasn't a victory. This was something deeper. Commander Ash stood on the deck of the lead Earth warship. Around him, officers waited in silence. He stared at the hologram of all the planets that had betrayed Earth. Dozens had fallen without a single shot fired. An officer finally asked, "What now?" Ash's eyes stayed cold. "Now they face what they gave us. Silence." On planet after planet, Earth withdrew. No deals, no alliances, no rebuilding, only silence. Where once Earth had begged for help, now they ignored the cries. Governments tried to offer aid, to fix what they had broken. But Earth had moved on. They weren't looking for justice anymore. They were creating something else. A new alliance, built only from those who stood by Earth during the war. The forgotten, the weak, the rejected. Now, Earth brought them in and gave them power. Together they formed the Silent Pact, no longer begging, no longer waiting. They would never be victims again. In deep space, the galaxy's cameras caught something strange. Earth's fleet was growing, new ships, new weapons, designed not for revenge but for protection for all Deathworlds, for all who were left to die, for those who would never again be ignored. One famous journalist asked the question everyone feared: what happens if someone attacks Earth again? The answer was short. A single message sent across all channels. Then the galaxy will remember what fear truly means. Earth did not destroy the galaxy. They changed it. Forever. No longer the forgotten world of war and weakness. Now they were a symbol. A warning. A reminder that even the smallest planet can rise from fire and become the voice of judgment. 20 years ago, Earth begged for help. No one listened. The powerful called them savages. The rich turned their backs. The council called it a necessary sacrifice. Earth was supposed to die, but it didn't. It endured. And now, as Earth's ships passed silently through the galaxy, the same stars that watched them suffer, watched them rise, the galaxy had changed. On every world, people whispered the same question: what does Earth want now? But Earth said nothing. They didn't send threats. They didn't make demands. They let the truth speak for them, and the truth was louder than war. In a school on a once hostile planet, children now studied Earth's history, not as enemies, but as survivors. They watched old videos of cities burning, of children crying in bunkers, of soldiers fighting with broken weapons and no backup. And then, they watched the rebirth, a shattered world building fleets, healing its people and returning, not with fire, but with purpose. The Silent Pact grew stronger. Deathworlds that were once ignored were now defended by Earth's fleets. Earth shared its tech freely, with the weak, not the rich, with the kind, not the powerful. And the galaxy saw something they had never seen before, a superpower that didn't want to rule. It wanted to protect. But there were still those who feared Earth, old warlords, fallen council members, secret arms dealers. They whispered in the dark, what if Earth becomes like us? So they tried one last time. A hidden fleet. A surprise strike. One attack meant to remind Earth of its place. They never reached Earth. They didn't even make it halfway, because Earth was no longer alone. Dozens of worlds, once broken, rose with them. Together, they crushed the attack before it began, without Earth ever having to lift a finger. One alien diplomat said it best. They wanted Earth to vanish, but Earth became the fire we all needed in the dark. In Earth's rebuilt capital, a statue was raised, not of a soldier, not of a leader, but of a young child, hands reaching to the stars, face covered in dust, eyes filled with tears. Below it, a plaque read, "We remember, we rise, we protect." That was the message now, not just for Earth, but for every world that was ever abandoned, every voice ever silenced, every child who ever asked, why did no one help us? Earth never wanted to become feared, but the galaxy gave them no choice. And now, Earth had become something far more powerful than feared, respected.